In this video, you'll understand what parameters are in StreamSets, why they're useful, and how to create and use them to make your pipelines dynamic and reusable. Parameters in StreamSets help you make your pipelines flexible, maintainable, and reusable. Instead of hard-coding values like file paths, database names, or Kafka topics, you can replace them with parameterized values. Think of parameters as placeholders. For example, instead of hard-coding a folder path like /temp/sales_data, you can create a parameter name, say data path, and reference it inside curly braces like this. You can then assign it a value when running the pipeline. This way, you don't need to modify the pipeline every time something changes. Simply update the parameter value. In StreamSets, parameters are broadly categorized based on their scope and where they are defined. The primary type refers to runtime parameters, but within the control hub environment, a distinction is made between dynamic and static parameters based on their flexibility in job configurations. Runtime parameters are the most common parameters, defined within a specific pipeline to represent values that may change between different runs or environments. You can define them in the Parameters tab under the Pipeline Properties panel. Their main purpose is to make the pipeline configuration dynamic. You'll often see them used in stage or pipeline properties using the syntax $sign followed by the parameter name inside curly braces. For example, you might have a file path, a database table name, or even a batch size as shown on the screen. Although parameters are stored as strings in the user interface, they can represent different data types, such as text, numbers, Boolean values that evaluate to true or false, or even lists and arrays written as JSON strings. Every parameter must have a default value when you design the pipeline. This default value is used unless it's explicitly overridden when you start the pipeline. And finally, overrides can happen at runtime, either manually in Data Collector or more commonly through a specific job configuration in Control Hub. Now, let's talk about job-specific parameters, parameters that come into play when a pipeline with runtime parameters is used inside a Control Hub job. In this case, these parameters gain an additional classification. The first type is dynamic parameters. By default, every pipeline parameter used in a job is dynamic. This means when someone creates a job instance from a job template, they can override the default value, giving that job run its own unique setting. The second type is static parameters. These are configured by an administrator inside the job template. When a parameter is marked as static, users who create job instances from that template cannot change its value. They must use the exact value defined in the template. So in short, dynamic parameters give flexibility for each job run, while static parameters ensure consistency and control across all job instances. Next, let's look at system and event-specific parameters. These exist at the control hub or engine level. Beyond the parameters you define yourself, StreamSets also provides a set of built-in parameters. These are often used within expression language functions to add dynamic context during runtime. For example, you can set a job-level override that assigns a value to a parameter named start time using the function as shown here. You can also combine parameters with StreamSets expression language or EL to make your pipeline even more dynamic. For instance, consider the on-screen file path. Here, the path automatically updates based on the current date, no manual edits required. Another example is subscription parameters. In Control Hub, when you create subscriptions, such as alerts triggered by job status changes or data SLAs, you can use a set of predefined parameters in your notification actions, like webhook payloads or emails. These parameters provide detailed context about the event, including the job ID, pipeline name, error message, or SLA ID. Together, these system and event-specific parameters make your StreamSets environment more intelligent, adaptive, and automated. Parameters are extremely useful in many real-world scenarios. For example, when you want to reuse the same pipeline across different environments, like development, QA, or production. Or when you need to run the same pipeline on different datasets without making any structural changes. Parameters also help reduce manual errors, especially those caused by repeatedly editing configurations. And finally, they make it easier to automate pipeline execution using external scripts or orchestrators. For more details on parameters, visit the official StreamSets documentation. Now that you understand the concept, let's dive in and see it in action through a lab exercise.